Hey there, Wade Shade here. We're gonna go through an install of a Dura Clutch system. Very, very cool clutch system. The greatest feature of it is it's a clutch inside of a clutch, so you get a super awesome smooth engagement. You gain engine braking. It's a very positive engine brake. Some people think it's a little bit too positive, but you know, if you like rock crawling, you're in steep country up and down, you're gonna love it. Great clutch, durable in the dirt and dust environment. You know, you still need to pull your cover off, blow the dust out whenever possible, at least every oil change. But you know, your original clutch, you know, it's got a pretty short life. If you're pretty hardcore, like I am, and you know, I'm changing this clutch out at about 1,000 miles, and that's not because of necessity. It's just because I like the way the Dura Clutch works. Eliminate a lot of future problems. When I go ride, I just want to go ride. I don't want to sit there and work on the damn thing in the middle of a ride because something failed, something ain't working properly. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to think about the machine. I want to think about where I'm going, what I'm seeing, what I'm doing, and have those comfort features that the Polaris Ranger gives you. By the way, it's really hot in here. I got a big fire going. I'm red in the face because it's so warm in here, and I think it's almost 90 degrees in here, and it's almost freezing outside, so I'm not used to the heat. So here we go, in comfort, installing Dura Clutch for comfort and comfort. Yeah. Okay, here we are again in the little dark cave, working on Polaris Rangers. This time we're gonna install a Dura Clutch kit in here, and I've installed quite a few of these now, and I think they're the way to go over your stock clutches, and they're very reasonably priced compared to the price of new stock clutches. So I think it's going to solve a lot of problems that I have with the Polaris clutches. And so let's get started. Well, first off, you should start off with a clean vehicle. And well, we're not passing on the first challenge right there. But it's springtime here where I live, so we're just gonna have to deal with it for now. Yeah, sorry, not very clean. Alright, you need an 8mm socket to do all the outer clutch cover bolts. What works really good on the lower ones is to have a little a swivel or a universal joint, so you can kind of go at an angle in and to get to those. And then there's also a Zerk fitting here that I just removed the Zerk fitting. So, but anyway, it takes a 3/8 inch end wrench to remove that Zerk fitting. That's all you need to do is take out the outer cover bolts, Zerk fitting, and I'll show you. We'll pop this cover off. So here, just 1 second. What the? Guess we're still recording, but I can't. There we go. It's all fuzzy. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but now what we do is we kind of get underneath the bottom and kind of force the plastic up past that upper A-arm, and it should just pop it right on out and down. And there we go, we're exposed. Okay, for removing the secondary, you're going to need a 15. And for the primary, you're going to need a 21 millimeter. And let's get to work on the secondary here. Alright. Alright, you get that bolt out and set it aside. This will come off in 2 pieces. So you can get your belt out of the way right away. And be careful, these are really sharp edges on here, so don't cut yourself on those things, but just watch this washer right here. Bring that out just like that. Alright, we'll see if we can break the primary bolt loose here. There we go. That broke loose. And for this, you're going to need a puller. I'm just setting those bolts on top of the air filter for right now. Let's see, we'll get our puller. Okay, this is what the 900 puller looks like. I got this one from Western Power Sports, I believe it was. They carry that kind of stuff, and sometimes you have to have a pretty good impact wrench to get this off, but hopefully this isn't going to be too hard. Okay, we'll see if this little impact wrench will do it. Not quite doing it. God, that should, but maybe we gotta get a bigger one. Okay, we got a bigger boy on here now. Well, that thing just don't want to come off. All right. Turkey's really on there. There it went. Good job. Hear that pop it released. Alright, so hopefully we're okay. We didn't hurt our threads. You gotta be kind of careful. Sometimes you can hurt the inside of that, popping that off, but I think we're alright. Okay, just gonna try screwing that back in there, make sure we didn't hurt anything. No, I don't think we did. I think we're all right. Okay. Okay, we're switching gears here. Now that we got everything off of the machine, I open up the box. And of course, first thing you do is you're gonna get your belt out, and you're gonna check and make sure that you have the right part number, 35-024, and that's what you want to check, 35-024. Alright, let's set that aside and keep going. And as you unpack things, always check your part numbers. You know you're going to have a part number on the boxes. And I'm going to get this laid out here real quick. I got everything out of the box. So instructions, secondary clutch, primary clutch. And they're going to be written on the boxes, but they're also going to be written or stickered onto the part. You just want to make sure you got the right parts, 10-024. 129, and that's what you show there you're supposed to have, and a 10 dash, what is that, 148. So you want, you want the 10-148 there. You just want to make sure you have what the contents match your instructions, because you know people make mistakes once in a while, and you want to catch it now and not later. So we're gonna keep going. I got things opened up. So yeah. So you're gonna have part numbers on your 10-129. That's what you want. And then your secondary clutch. These are really, really nice clutches. Packaged well. Got good hardened round rollers. This is a nice dampened clutch, and there's going to be a part number on this too. Where's it at? Yeah, usually they have the part number on there, but I don't see it on this one. But a lot of times they'll have a sticker on the secondary, but it looks right. I've installed enough of these. I'm not worried about it being the wrong one, so we're good. I found it. Yep, we're right. It's got the part number on the back side. All right, cool. We are ready to install. Okay, one other thing I like to do before I install is I like to do a little. It's a aerosol can. It's called it's a spray graphite. Basically, it goes on wet, but the solvent in it dries. So what's left is a dry graphite film on everything, and that dry graphite really helps lubricate these rollers. And I'll spray a little bit on here and then on the slide surface and whatnot. And on the primary, I'll put the spray graphite. I'll impregnate it on this slide surface on the buttons, and then I'll spray a little bit to the roller and the weight. You don't want to get any graphite in here on these clutches or on the belt surface, but just a tiny little bit of dry graphite, you know, just helps a little bit. And that aerosol graphite, I use the Lawson brand, and it'll soak into the aluminum a little bit. The aluminum is porous enough that the graphite will pretty much impregnate itself in a little thin layer on those. And boy, it just makes a huge difference on how that works. And another thing you want to do before you install is you want to just take a little dry rag or a tack cloth and just wipe off a little bit of the dust and everything. And then you want to take a little bit of a rag with a little bit of alcohol, and you want to clean the inside of this tapered hole off. And you also want to clean the PTO side of your crankshaft off on your Ranger with that alcohol, and wipe it off and make sure there's no grease or anything on that, because that's what holds everything and just makes everything go better together. All right, here we go. Okay, I like to install the secondary clutch first after you've wiped everything down good with a little tack cloth. No greases, oils, or nothing go in here other than that dry graphite. And sometimes it'll help if you put your Ranger in gear, and that way you can slide this back and forth with the transmission input shaft stationary, and you can kind of help line it up and put. I got lucky; it went right on. So yeah, so now we'll use our original retaining bolt here, and we'll put this on. And we're gonna zip that down just kind of snug, and then we're gonna get a holding tool, and we're gonna torque that to 45 foot-pounds. All right. All right. Like I say, we're just gonna snug that, and then we're gonna torque it here in a few minutes when we get everything put together. Okay, as a general rule, you want to be able to read your numbers on your belt as it's facing you, and then put your belt in here. Get it into that groove and kind of tuck down in there just for a second. And then what I like to do is, and it really aids in putting this on, is take your tool that comes with your kit, and see this little beak here? You're going to put it in here just like this, and what you're going to do is this is going to aid you in opening this clutch up just a hair. And it lets that belt kind of go down in, and what that does is going to give you just a little bit of slack. Now, that is going to help us get our primary in here. We're just going to kind of roll this baby in here, like so. And I rock it back towards you until you can kind of feel that shaft and lines up. And as it goes on, then you can just kind of roll this back and forth, and it's going to kind of find itself on that tapered shaft. Just roll it back and forth, and it's just going to kind of seat itself. And when it just kind of feels good and seated and kind of grabs itself, you're good. And then now we're going to install the bolt that came with the kit. And it's got this little shouldered bushing washer. Put that in there. Just kind of get it started a few turns. Finger tight. Alright, and in the kit, it came with a tool for that bolt. It came with the, it's a little, oh, this one's a Blackhawk. What is it? 12 millimeter hex socket. And what I do is just initially, just to get it kind of snugged up, I just use my little key to impact tool. And I just run it in and just kind of snug it up just to get it to stay there for a minute. And then now I'm going to go get my torque wrench, and we're going to torque this one at 45 foot-pounds. And Duraclutch recommends that you torque this one at 60. I think that's fine. I sometimes like to torque them a little tighter. Polaris recommends, torquing them at 96 foot-pounds, but that's good too. I mean, you can do that. It just sometimes it's a little, if you ever want to get it back off there, it's a little harder to get back off. But sometimes that difference in torque changes your alignment of your belt. So I say torque it down to 60, 65. Torque this one down at 45. Spin this a few times before you ever put the cover on. Start your motor and make sure that the secondary stops and doesn't move while it's idling. And we're going to do that here in a minute, just as soon as I get these torqued. That's what I'm going to do next. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention when you're torquing these, unless you have the special holding tool that Polaris makes, you can, if you're really careful, you can get a wooden dowel or a plastic rod, anything that's got a softer surface than aluminum, and you can, stick, I'm going to use this as an example. Don't use metal, but if you got a wooden dowel or a wooden hammer handle, you can stick it in through here if you're really careful. Like I say, this is kind of a no-no, but if you don't have anything else, I'm just trying to tell you how you can do this without harming your clutch. But it needs to be something wood or something soft. A shovel handle, a wooden hammer handle, anything, while you're torquing that, so you can torque that and not hurt nothing. Don't stick anything metallic in there other than the holder that you're supposed to use. And so yeah, I guess next we're going to start this and make sure the clutches are going to work okay before we ever put the cover on. So 1 second. what we want. We want this clutch the secondary to stop. And so we know everything's okay. We can go ahead and put the cover on now. But notice how I revved up the motor a little bit to make sure that the belt and everything kind of did a few revolutions and sunk in and seated itself. So now I feel confident that we can put the cover on and knowing that this secondary is top, because that's what's going to enable you to change your gears easily. If this is turning and doesn't stop, you're not going to be able to shift gears, and there's something wrong. So as long as it does that and stops, we know we're good to go. Let's put the cover on and we're going to go play. One other thing I just want to show you is this is what is so cool about this system, is that this is stationary. There's nothing turning and rubbing on your belt all that running. That has got a clutch inside of the clutch, and that's where you get your smooth engagement. That's where your belt life lasts so much longer. And it's also, not a lot of people think about this, but that's where your easier, less cranking power starts are, because you're not having to turn that belt and everything when you're cranking that motor over. It's stopped. All you're doing is cranking it over without having to turn over all this other extra stuff. Make sure there's no gunkies in here. And a lot of times this is the what most people struggle on. I struggle on it sometimes too. But as you notice, I'm just bringing this clutch up from the bottom. I'm kind of working it up into and past this air filter housing. And notice with my hand here, I'm going to lift up on the lower part of that clutch and pop it in there. So, and I'm going to actually kind of pull it forward as I'm pushing in, maybe just kind of tap on it a little bit. It'll find its way. It's not finding its way, but it'll find its way in here. Give me a, there it goes. There, I just didn't. Anyway, that's how you just kind of pop it back in there without having to take a bunch of other stuff loose. All right, let's put some screws back in it, and don't forget to put your Zerk fitting back in. Yeah. Let's see, your hardest ones to put in are these bottom ones. You kind of just have to lay your hand flat and slowly creep that screw up in there. Sometimes it helps too to get a few of the top ones just started. It helps keep you lined up. But I recommend getting all of them started first before you ever tighten any of them down, because you can warp things and bend it. But you want to make sure that everything's lined up first. If you're fighting stuff, it means stuff isn't lined up. If it goes easy, feel good, confident. If you're fighting stuff, it means something might be wrong. If you're having trouble, get somebody to help you. Sometimes a second eyeball makes all the difference in the world. And they'll see something,
now,
you know, somebody else will see something that you don't see. All in there and kind of started with your fingers. God, I gotta find my bit for my wrench. Anyway, I'm almost there. Hang on. I'll just go ahead and try to start these lower ones by hand, because they're hard to get to. Let me get all of these in here. And again, this time I like to just snug them up by hand before I get too crazy. There is a torque on these. I gotta look in the book. I'm gonna get corrected later, but I think it's like 22 inch-pounds or something. Gosh, you know what? I like to feel how tight they are more so than others, because you know it's just plastic you're going into, and you don't want to strip your plastic out. So I recommend just doing these by hand. You know, you can run them in with your little impact gun, run them in until they just stop or take up the gap. But as far as tightening, you know, do it by hand. You can feel that you know you're getting tight enough without hurting the plastic and stripping them. And sometimes a little stubby ratchet is the best, because you know you're less apt to over tighten it. And believe me, it's easy to strip the plastic out. So, and you don't want to do that. That's just a pain in the butt. So. Yeah, so just keep going around it. Double check yourself. Make sure you didn't miss any screws. But yeah, just do everything by hand right there towards the last. Because most of us, you know, there is a torque, like I say, a specific torque, but most of us don't have those tools, you know, and you know, you get good and hand tight, you're gonna get it. Okay, last but not least, recommending that because put your Zerk fitting back in. I would do that, but I seem to have dropped my Zerk fitting down here in the mud somewhere. So anyway, I'll find that and put that in. You know, ideally, yeah, we want this all clean. But, you know, sometimes you just don't have the luxury of having everything perfect. And this is a backyard mechanic here, so. But, yeah, I'd recommend cleaning everything up before you do it. But we're being careful. Do it the best way you can. All right, let's go play. Okay, another thing I want to go over is after you get the cover on, let's start it and make sure that the primary or secondary is not hitting the cover or anything or making any excessive noise. You just want to make sure you got everything on right. And the best test is to start it and listen for any noises coming from that clutch cover. If you do, shut it off real fast. That way you don't ruin any clutch covers or anything. So then we're going to fire it up and make sure. Okay, so actually I am hearing a little bit of a vibration here. And so, you hear that? It's barely touching that cover. Alright. You may or may not have heard the primary clutch just barely making contact with the inside, or excuse me, with the inside of the outside of the cover. Right in here, that primary clutch is just barely touching that. Now, what'll happen if you don't remedy or fix that is it may or may not eventually wear through the face of this cover. Couple things you can do. You can try torquing this down a little more to the full 96 foot-pounds, and that'll pull it in just a little bit away from the cover. Option 2, if that still doesn't work, is a lot of times you can get, because over time these inner covers and outer covers, they're plastic, they get hot and they warp. You know, you could put a new inner cover and outer cover on, and that may take that noise away. Option 3 is what I usually do is I get a sander, a belt sander, and find out exactly where it's making contact. Remove this cover, see where it's making contact, and you can actually take away just a little bit of material off the face of that primary clutch. That's another option. Or, fourth option, and it's kind of hokey, but you can get a rubber block and get in here between the motor and this, and you can wedge this cover out just a hair. Sounds kind of hokey, but it works. So that's your 3 options. Torque your clutch down to the full 96 foot-pounds, put your cover back on, see if it's still making contact. If it still is, remove your cover, and or get a new inner cover and outer cover, and that may solve the problem. A little expensive. What I like to do is I actually like to take a belt sander to the face of your primary clutch and just remove a little bit of material, and that usually does the trick. And like I say, the 4th option, kind of hokey, but it works, is rubber block wedge your clutch cover out so it doesn't make contact. Like I say, idling is where it's going to make contact. Just as soon as you're off idle, it's not going to contact that cover anymore. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. These covers warp over time, and so you just got to get in there and sand, torque, wedge, whatever you got to do. No loud noises coming from in there, so